My dear friends, welcome back for the second part, and we continue our story with you. But if you haven't seen the first part yet, go watch it first, and then come back to continue with us. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can see everything new. The panda shot another beam toward Fawn, who tried to escape as fast as he could, but the beam grazed his hair. He screamed to everyone, "Anyone who sees the beam, hide now." Fawn began to see purple spots appearing on his body and thought he had been poisoned. Quickly, he called out to Juan and said, "Juan, use your urination skill." Juan was surprised and said, "I don't see anything wrong with you," but Fawn said, "No arguments, just spray my face." And, indeed, Juan sprayed urine on his face, but, unfortunately, it had no effect, meaning he got urine on his face for nothing. Then, the panda shot another laser at Fertile Lands. Shu ran over to check on him, but when he looked, there wasn't a single wound. It was as if someone had painted him with a brush. The same thing happened with Fawn. He looked poisoned, but felt perfectly fine. That's when they understood that the panda's real ability was to absorb colors and create illusions to repel enemies. This was dangerous because it was hard to chase an opponent who camouflaged themselves with colors. The good thing was that it didn't actually harm them. If they could avoid the physical attacks, they would be fine. Zhu shouted to Fertile Lands, "Stay alert and dodge its attacks." But the panda suddenly made its bamboo staff invisible, and Fertile Lands couldn't dodge it in time. Zhu began to worry about him and called out to Fawn, saying, "Help me, and I'll share the bommy with you." No one understood what bommy meant, but Fawn agreed to help him, even though he didn't trust Shu. Fawn called out to Juan and said, "Spray some urine on the panda. Maybe it will weaken it." After that, he summoned the cactus to restrain it. But, alas, it turned out to be just an illusion, and the real panda suddenly appeared and struck the cactus. Then, the panda's horn glowed again, and a light burst out, blinding them. When their vision returned, the panda had disappeared. They were all on edge, because the panda was definitely hiding and coloring itself. Suddenly, Fertile Lands spotted a movement and attacked quickly, but unfortunately, it was a trap. At that moment, the panda dropped from the ceiling, slammed into the ground with force, and then used its ultimate ability. It changed the colors of the entire room, causing Fawn's and Shu's minds to become disoriented from the overwhelming colors. Then, it struck them. Fawn stood there, not understanding anything because he was colorblind anyway, so the whole situation seemed like a joke to him. But when he got tired of seeing Shio being humiliated by a panda, he decided to intervene. He took advantage of the panda's distraction, sneaked up behind it, and hit it on the head. After it fell, he sprayed some urine on it to prove who was stronger. Fawn was shocked that Juan had defeated it so easily, but was happy that they had finally managed to capture it. But suddenly, Shu grabbed the panda and ran. Fawn and the others ran after him, but Shu pulled out his Denarina paper and flew away with it. This was a heartbreak, because now they wouldn't be able to get it back. Fawn said, "We worked hard for nothing, and the next lord won't appear anytime soon." He suggested they go to the market tomorrow to buy some beasts. That night, Shiu took the panda and went to the Eastern Sex Temple. When he arrived, he said to the guard, "I want to see Master Yu." The guard took him inside. Yu was surprised and said, "Bravo, you managed to capture a lord alone." But Shiu said, "I didn't come here to hear praise. I came to take my beast, as we agreed." But as he was speaking, something strange entered his shadow, without him noticing. Yu said to his men, "Bring the ice tails." Shu was happy that he would see his second beast, but as soon as he approached it, Yu's men tried to kidnap Fertile Lands. Shu got angry and said, "What are you doing? That wasn't our agreement." But Yu calmly said, "I never intended to return it to you," and ordered his men to seize him. But Shu wasn't just anyone. He resisted them and started fighting back with Fertile Lands. However, Yu suddenly summoned a beast from Xiu's own shadow, and a huge creature emerged, struck Xiu, and buried him in the ground. The next day, Fawn and the others went to the city to buy beasts. While Fawn was busy, the others saw a wanted poster for Liu Feng, who was with them, and everyone began to tense up. But one of them said, "Maybe it's not him. Let's wait and observe him first." At that moment, Fawn returned and said to them, "Let's go buy the beasts." But first, they needed money. They went to the bank, and Ju performed the sex dance to access the account, but the clerk told her, "Someone withdrew all the money days ago." Ju sat down crying, saying, "How were we robbed like this?" But Fawn remembered that he was the one who had withdrawn it when he returned, and he told them, "I have some money we can use to buy beasts," but he didn't tell them he was the reason. As soon as they entered the market, Ju fell in love with a beast named Scent Skipper. Its appearance was amazing, but it cost 20 taels, and they didn't have that amount. Immediately, Yu activated her bargaining mode and started telling the seller, "What is this garbage? It looks useless and ugly." And indeed, she managed to lower the price. But the poor beast came out utterly devastated. After Yu finished her hard work and performed some of her magic tricks, X went to her and asked for help because she wanted to get a spirit beast like them, especially since these beasts looked funny and completely unusual. Now Yu had a powerful bargaining tool and could negotiate however she wanted. Now, she and Ju each had a spirit beast, but Yu hadn't chosen one for herself yet, so they decided to continue walking around the market to see if she could find something she liked. They found the panda at one of the merchant's stalls. So, X approached the panda and whispered to it, and the panda disappeared. The merchant started looking for the panda, got down on the ground, and tried to crawl into a small hole that appeared to him, but he was surprised to find that the hole was just an illusion. The panda was still in the cage, furious and unable to contain its anger. The panda hit the merchant on the head, making the world spin around him, and he fell unconscious. The panda still looked angry and could harm anyone. Fawn was very worried, but Yu told him to relax and approach the panda. She started telling it about her sect, which was destroyed before her eyes while she couldn't do anything, and said she wanted it to become her spirit beast, so the two of them could help each other. The panda softened its heart toward her and agreed to become her spirit beast, but Yu needed to form a spiritual bond and didn't know how to start. So, Simo stepped in and helped her, showing her the correct position, and indeed, the official bond between them was formed. The Lord Panda had become Yu's spirit beast. Fawn was very happy for her, but as he looked around, he spotted Fire Tails tied up inside a shop. He remembered how much Shu loved that beast and wondered, how could he sell it so easily? He untied the rope and freed Fire and Ice Tails. When they spoke to him, they told him that Shu had been kidnapped and imprisoned. Pixie asked Fawn if they should try to save him, but everyone knew that the Eastern sect was far stronger than them, and its leader was as powerful as a spirit general. The situation was very difficult, but Fawn had a plan. He told them to return home because there was something important he needed to show them. Before Fawn died, he had hidden some powerful enhancement pills under a tree and told them that these pills could increase the strength of their spirit beasts. Meanwhile, at Yu's headquarters, Shu was tied up and being tortured to break the contract with his spirit beasts. But Shu knew that even if he did, Yu would still kill him, so he decided to hold on. Night fell, and Fawn and his team began their attack. Shu, from inside his cell, heard the sounds of fighting and combat, but didn't understand what was happening until Fawn and the others reached his cell and freed him. Fire and Ice Tails ran to Shu and hugged him, and at that moment, Shu cried tears of joy but was confused and didn't understand why Fawn was risking himself for him. Fawn told him, "We're on a mission, and you're strong, we need you with us." So, he joined them in the battle. After a while, Yu arrived and found his guards beaten up on the ground. He was very surprised. "Who has the audacity to attack my headquarters?" At that moment, Fawn was looking for Yu to confront him, but while searching the place, he accidentally entered the treasure room, and it was the best accident ever. He found extremely rare items, powerful magic scrolls, artifacts, enhancement materials, everything. At that moment, he thought about enhancing Teddy and Kak, but the process would take time, so he decided to wait until after his battle with Yu. Suddenly, Yu emerged from the shadows and said to him, "We could share these materials if you join the Eastern sect." But Fawn refused and said, "I belong to the Longshu Pavilion, and I came to avenge my sect." He attacked him and aimed a blow at his eye, but Kak quickly pulled Fawn away and saved him. Yu sent his spirit beast after him for a second attack. Fawn ran like a madman inside the treasure room to escape the mysterious entity attacking him. Unfortunately, the entity was much faster than him, so Fawn had no choice but to start grabbing artifacts and antiques from the shelves and throwing them at the entity. Even though he was sure these things wouldn't affect it at all, the surprise was that the entity actually stopped and didn't continue chasing him. It turned out that Yu, who owned the entity, cared deeply about the artifacts and antiques, so the creature started putting the items back in their places instead of continuing the chase. This gave Fawn a devilish idea. He called out to Teddy and told him to hit a vase from the top shelf and smash it on the ground. As soon as the vase shattered, Yu screamed loudly and said, "That was extremely valuable." At that moment, Cactus jumped onto a shelf and knocked it all onto Yu, burying him under the artifacts. Fawn thought the battle was finally over, but suddenly, Yu's shadow emerged from the rubble and stabbed Fawn in the chest. Fawn felt that this entity was far stronger than him and couldn't defeat it alone, so he decided to quickly catch up with Jiu and the rest of the team. Meanwhile, Jiu and her team had finished freeing all the spirit beasts that Yu had imprisoned, but suddenly, they heard an explosion coming from Fawn's direction, and Jiu began to worry about him. Fawn reached the group with difficulty, severely injured, and asked them to distract the entity for a while until Skipper finished healing. Suddenly, Yu's shadow appeared and rushed towards Shu at an incredible speed, but before it could strike, Fire and Ice Tails intervened and saved him. Fire Tails tried to attack the entity, but it disappeared and reappeared behind Shu, about about to strike from behind. However, Ice Tails hit the entity before the blow landed, forcing it to retreat momentarily. Fawn told Yu to use the panda's light ability to weaken the entity. Indeed, the entity began to retreat, especially after Skipper finished healing. Fawn, now ready to rejoin the battle, faced a problem. His spirit beasts were still in the middle of evolving, meaning he couldn't use them now. The other spirit beasts began coordinating their attacks. Fire and Ice Tails restrained the entity, and Cactus prepared to use Form Pack as a moving bomb, but Yu refused to let the entity lose easily, and pushed it into its second stage, equipping it with a bone armor. The armor made it much stronger, allowing it to break free from Fire and Ice Tails and strike all the surrounding spirit beasts, knocking them down one after another. Now, only Ju was left. Since she had become the sect leader, Yu intended to finish her off. The shadow raised its hand to strike Ju, but before it could touch her, the catfish, Nian, suddenly appeared and blocked the blow. Fawn's spirit beasts had finally completed their evolution, and Nian had become huge and deadly in combat. Yu couldn't believe his eyes. He thought catfish had been extinct for months. Even Ju was shocked because the only person she knew who could use a catfish like this was her master. Fawn pressured the entity, and Yu's shadow changed its strategy, starting to use long-range attacks. Nian kept flying and dodging the spikes the entity shot, but eventually, it was hit in its gills and stuck to the ground. This should have been the end, but Fawn had bought a defensive bubble scroll earlier and used it to push the entity away. At the same time, Fawn ordered Cactus to restrain the entity, so roots sprouted from the ground and completely bound it. Since the entity couldn't move, Nian began using its devastating ability, grabbing the entity's head and starting to suck it in. Yu knew what this meant. If the entity was sucked in, it would be the end. He screamed and told the entity to escape at any cost. The entity tried to dig its claws into Neon's body and anchor itself to the ground, but Fawn had anticipated this and told Neon to fly into the sky with it. The entity had nothing to hold on to and was forced to be digested inside Neon's stomach. Thus, the entity's physical form disappeared, but its core remained intact. As long as the core was intact, Yu could restore it. So, Shu and Firetails destroyed the core. But suddenly, the girl Fawn had saved in the city appeared out of nowhere and shattered the core with a single strike. She herself didn't understand what was happening, but when Yu tried to attack her, she kicked him with a side hoof strike, making him lose half his teeth. The girl had been following Fawn ever since because she was grateful to him and had even fallen in love with him, but she was too shy to say it. So, she covered her face and ran into the forest, leaving Fawn standing there confused. After a while, everyone recovered from exhaustion and began collecting the treasures Yu had left behind, but Shu became greedy and said he wanted 70% of the loot. However, Fawn had prepared for this after evolving Teddy. It had unlocked a new ability called Pollen Cian. He sprayed it on Shu, making him forget everything he was saying. Then, Fawn told him, "Didn't you already give up your share when you stole the panda earlier?" Shu believed it and thought he had indeed said that. After finishing all this, Fawn told everyone to go choose spirit beasts that suited them from Yu's collection. Suddenly, Fawn found a small iron ball and thought it might be perfect for him, so he decided to form a contract with it as a spirit beast. But he felt strange resistance while trying to bond with it. However, with his experience in bonding with spirit beasts, he eventually managed to form a contract. But after a while, Fawn felt a strange pressure in his body and collapsed to the ground. Everyone ran to him to check on him. In the morning, Fawn woke up in his bed and found she standing beside him. She had been very worried when he suddenly collapsed. But once he woke up, she and Yu decided to cook him a good meal to restore his strength. Fawn didn't understand what had happened to him before, but remembered being attacked by a strange force after contracting with the iron ball. Anyway, he was happy that they had managed to obtain all the materials from the Eastern sect to level up their spirit beasts. Now, all their spirit beasts could evolve. He also thought that when the cottonfish levels up, it gains storage space inside its body, so he decided to talk to it about this. He found it standing in the memorial farm he had built in honor of its deceased master. It apologized to Fawn, feeling that he had worked extremely hard for the sect's benefit even though he was new. But since Fawn had joined them, it felt that they could truly restore the sect to its former glory. Fawn told her that he hadn't done anything alone. All the credit went to everyone's cooperation. Jiyu said that the way he acted, dealt with enemies, and controlled the cottonfish all reminded her of her old master, and that such similarity couldn't be a coincidence. She asked Fawn to tell her the truth. She wanted to know if he was her master or not. Fawn was considering whether to tell her the truth, but since he still didn't know who the traitor was, he had to keep his secret until he found out. So, he decided to lie and say his name was Kronk Garner. When Yu and the others heard this, they suddenly rushed in and tied him up because of his strange behavior. Fawn wished he hadn't ruined his image, but at least his secret was safe, and he could continue his investigation. After that, she took him away to reflect on his actions. Yu asked Ju if she really thought Fawn was related to their master. Ju said she had thought so at first, but if Fawn was really corrupt, it was impossible for him to be related to their master. The most important thing now was to prepare for the D-Class promotion tournament, because they had to to improve their sex ranking. A few days later, the day of the tournament finally arrived. The whole team traveled on the pigs they were riding. Ju was happy, but it was her first time riding a pig, so she crashed into a tree. Fawn apologized because he couldn't afford better transportation due to their limited budget. Everyone was nervous because they had worked hard for today. Participants from all factions would gather on the tournament island. Usually, only 4 or 5 factions participated each year, but suddenly, Fawn noticed someone following them. It turned out to be the girl who looked like a goat. She had been spying on Fawn for a while, but whenever Ju tried to talk to her, she would shy away and run off. Ju said she might just be shy, and there was no need to worry about her. They continued their journey to the examination center, and were surprised by the large crowd there. When they went to register, the other participants started insulting them, which upset Gangxi, but Ju told her to ignore them, and not let it affect her. Finally, they reached the registration office, and Ju was surprised to find out that the examiner was an old friend of hers, named Master Li. Li was very happy to see her, and Ju went to register. But before she did, she asked him why so many people were participating in the tournament this year. Li replied that the reason was the sect. Ju didn't understand what he meant by the sect, so Li explained that after the Longxiu Pavilion fell and weakened, all its resources were stolen by unknown gangs and many criminals. With all the stolen goods, they were able to prepare themselves to enter the promotion exam. The criminals mocked the sect, calling it an easy target and a trivial piece of cake to steal. But Li got angry and told them to shut up immediately. Then, he went to talk to Jiu and told her that, as much as he didn't want to say it, there were only 8 spots available for the tournament. If their sect wanted to participate, they would have to fight the other gangs to take their place. Of course, as soon as the gangs heard this, they laughed mockingly and disrespected the sect, all of them seeing it as weak, especially since it relied on someone like Ju. Fawn stepped forward and asked her, "Do you remember the names of the gangs that stole from our sect?" Ju replied, "Yes, it was the Hong Fu gang, Kuangsha Shengun, and Yang." Fawn turned the tables on them and announced their names loudly in front of everyone, especially mentioning one of them, named Wang Fuji, the leader of the Hong Fu gang. Fawn remembered that years ago, this gang had been robbed, and at that time, Wang himself had come to beg him for help. Fawn had taken pity on him and helped him. Without that, the Hong Fu gang wouldn't even exist today. But Hong turned out to be ungrateful and shamelessly said in front of everyone, "I have to live, and hair transplant surgery isn't free. I have to steal to survive." Fawn was shocked by the audacity, but the way Wang spoke made Fawn even more determined to reclaim what was rightfully his. He summoned Teddy, his spirit beast, and everyone was surprised to see that it had reached level 8. All the gangs were shocked because they thought Fawn's sect no longer had any high-level spirit beasts. Wang tried to calm his men and told them to focus. "It's just one dog, it can't handle all of us." But at that moment, all their spirit beasts were suddenly restrained by the legs of an evolved cactus. Teddy seized the opportunity and ran toward Wang, literally urinating on him. Teddy had acquired a poisonous urination skill, and the poison immediately started working on Wang, turning his lips purple like a duck's beak. Wang began screaming and begging the other gangs for help, but to everyone's surprise, all the members of Fawn's sect were ready, and highly leveled, they took down the other gangs in moments. Fawn grabbed Wang by his clothes and said, "Not only will you return everything you stole, you'll return it with 200% interest." The other gang leaders were terrified and nervous, and they agreed immediately. The factions that will be leaving from this center are the Langu Wing, the Wandad Wing, and the Bio Institute. At that moment, Shay notices that Siu is present and is shocked to learn that he is a member of the Bimo Institute. Even Fawn himself had thought he didn't belong to any wing. However, the leader of the Wandad Wing sees this as an opportunity and says that he also wants to form an alliance, but Siu refuses and tells him that they are weak and don't deserve such an alliance. This makes the leader of the Wandad Wing angry. Fawn decides not to get involved in the conflict and remains sensible so as not to gain enemies before the championship begins. Suddenly, the Grand Master of the Bimo Institute tells Siu to be quiet, and Siu immediately falls silent because it's clear that he is very afraid of her. Fawn notices that this master is an elderly woman, but looks very strong and not easy to deal with. Suddenly, an announcement is made. All participants must immediately head to the championship island. A massive object called a cavern descends in front of the wing members, a giant transportation vehicle. Yudi starts screaming, saying it's her first time riding something this big, but the rest of the team takes it normally and is excited. As soon as they arrive on the island, they find a woman named Lu waiting for them. Her face shows complete astonishment when she sees that the Babylon faction is present. She immediately approaches her and explains that they are participating in the championship this year and that Ju has become the new leader of Babylon. As soon as Lu hears this, she runs excitedly to Ju and says that she is one of the biggest fans of Babylon. She also mentions that the team has become very strong, and quickly so under the leadership of the former leader, Master Fawn, who always defeated his opponents with incredible skill. Unfortunately, the team declined after his death. After a while, Lu gathers everyone and tells them that she will distribute something very important for the championship. She goes to one of the animals with her, takes a ring from it, and tells them that this ring is not ordinary. It is connected to something called a consonance, which are animals developed by the association to monitor the contestants. Each one must wear their ring, and the consonants will record their data moment by moment. Then, she announces the basic rules of the championship. You must keep your ring on at all times. If you fall into the water, you will be disqualified. It is forbidden to attack anyone who has announced their surrender, and if you violate any rule, you will be immediately eliminated. After everyone understands the rules, she tells them that they will now be transported to the starting locations, and the test will begin soon. She is forced to leave the island, but before leaving, she looks at Ju and says with complete sincerity that she hopes Babylon will return to the spotlight. On the other hand, the B family was heading toward the examination center. When they arrived, Bibitan greeted Lord Li and apologized for the delay. He had brought his younger sister, Liansuo, with him because she wanted to attend and watch. As soon as Liansuo heard someone mention the name Babylon, she remembered that they used to be a top-tier faction in the B class, but are now, unfortunately, starting from scratch. Lu said she doesn't trust the B family because there is a rumor that Master Fawn's death is related to them, but Tan responded to her and said that these rumors are wrong. He told her that he trusts his family would never do something so disgraceful, like killing a leader. As soon as Lu heard this, she quickly apologized and said she was very sorry for saying that because he responded to her gently and told her he wasn't upset because he understands where these rumors come from. At that time, the B and Babylon factions were both at the same level, and many people thought they were rivals, so it was natural for rumors to spread. But Tan said he was fortunate to have faced Master Fawn before his death, and even though they were the same age, Fawn was incredibly strong. He couldn't hold his ground against him, which is why he respects him greatly and considers what happened to him truly unfortunate. Now, the important thing is that the competition is about to begin. Li told Tan to come with her to announce the start of the championship. At that moment, things began to transform, and a huge arena appeared. All the consonances activated to monitor the players' movements. Simultaneously, a giant consonance standing on the mountain blew, and glowing balls emerged from it, dispersing all over the island. Li explained to everyone that there are 500 balls distributed around. Collecting each one earns a point. Once a total of 300 points are collected collectively, the second part of the championship will begin. Li found it a bit strange and said, "Is it that easy? It's just about collecting balls." Then, Shay saw a ball near her and quickly went to grab it, but before she could reach out, an animal resembling a golfer appeared, snatched the ball, and ran away. The remaining balls on the island started disappearing one after another, meaning the other teams had also started quickly gathering the balls. Meanwhile, at the examination center, Tan and Liansuo were walking and watching what was happening. The members of the Tian sect had given their rings to the animals with them, letting their pet animals start collecting the balls, and indeed, this plan worked very well for them, but the surprise was the sudden appearance of someone named Shang Liu. He was holding all their animals and had a strange creature with him. It wasn't clear exactly what it was, but it was obvious he was very strong. The result, Shang Liu eliminated all members of the Tian sect in an instant. In the control room, Liansuo was shocked to see all the sect members get wiped from the exam simultaneously. However, after Fawn got a ball, a nearby team noticed him, forcing him to hide quickly. This team turned out to be from a sect named Angluoan. At that moment, Fawn remembered that this was the sect Suad belonged to, meaning they might know Liu. The girl was surprised and said, "That's Liu's dog," and then she called out loudly, "Liu, if you're nearby, show yourself." At that exact moment, in another place, Jiaoling had just found a ball and was happy about it, but as she was picking it up, a team suddenly attacked her. It seemed Donnie was among them too. And with that, our story for today ends. Don't forget to like, share, and comment on the video, as that's what encourages us to continue. And if you're new to our channel, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get all the updates.